My name is Bruce Allen Cromell Jr. and I was a interior communications electrician's third class when I left the Navy. The Iraqis shot a couple Silkworm missiles at us. One of them splashed, never made it. The other one went right over our fantail and then was coming back. And the HMS Gloucester shot it down with 2 sea darts. So those guys on that British ship saved our bacon that day. And while that's all going on, the Jarrett, I think, frigate is shooting at either our chaff or the missile and shot us 5 times with their Sea-Whiz 20 millimeter anti-air weapon. Basically, it's a big Gatling gun that shoots depleted uranium rounds. So it'll go through at least 2 bulkheads of a battleship, because that's exactly what it did. And we didn't suffer any casualties other than if the captain's mess cook hadn't took 1 step to the right or left or sat down or stood up or something, he would have been toast, because the bullet just missed him. One of them. We were in the Gulf before they shot the missiles at us. We had there was a purported gas cloud coming towards us. Now, we had been issued our what they call MOP gear. We were at MOP level 2, which is basically I think we were wearing the suits. We had the gas masks, but we didn't have the canisters open. You don't do that until you go to MOP level 5. Well, apparently another ship of crew from Czechoslovakia or somebody had mentioned that, or alerted us that we had a positive detection for a chemical agent. So we went from MOP level 2 to MOP level 5, which means you have to get all your gear on, your gas mask, your gloves, your boots, your canister. Now the canisters were like an old hammering canister. So you had to put the key in and untwist it and break the seal and then pull it back and get your canister out and put it on your gas mask. Well, we were nervous. So you'd pair up with a buddy, and what happened was a lot of guys were breaking the cans off. So now what are you going to do? So they would rip the cans off, and they would usually cut themselves pretty bad, and blood all over the place, and they would pull these canisters out, and they would try to get them, to help their buddies get these canisters on. And I don't know, whatever happened with that. It didn't seem to pan out, but the other thing was when that missile missed us on the fantail, I was in repair 2, which is in between turn 1 and turn 2. Now, that plane I told you about with the infrared camera on it, when it looks back at the ship, what do you see? You see 9 glowing red barrels and 2 stacks that glow. So when that missile goes by, it's going to lock onto something. Is it going to lock onto the 6 hot barrels in the front, or the 3 in the back, or the 2 stacks? So there's no place to run there. There's no armor. You're standing on the armor plate. The second deck is the armor that's 17 inches of steel. It's just a 1/4 inch of steel basically everywhere else. I mean, the main deck maybe had an inch or something. So this is what's running through your mind when you're standing there wondering if you're really going to get, what's going to happen. So when I mentioned the HMS Gloucester, those guys saved our bacon. Saved somebody's bacon, because that thing was going to come and hit us. And had they not shot it down, we would have been screwed, more or less. I don't think we would have sunk, but people would have died. And then, right after that, they did the invasion they did a mock diversion, basically, that we were supposed to do this big World War II sea, land invasion that Saddam was convinced that we were going to do it. So we had the USS Tripoli, which was an amphibious support carrier, us, and of course Wisconsin was there. But we were in a line, the Princeton, the Tripoli, and us, and we were going up to do this mock exercise. We weren't going to actually land anybody, but we were going to go through the motions. Well, the Princeton, the story I heard was the Princeton saw a floating mine. Now, Saddam had dumped all these floating mines in the water. I mean, hundreds. And when we were there, we'd see ships sunken, half submerged ships, freighters. I probably saw 4 or 5 of those. We were floating in an oil slick because of all the oil that came out of these freighters. So we would see these mines. They installed a forward-looking infrared camera on our ship, and I think maybe, I know the battleships got them, I don't know if any other ones did. They also installed some 25mm chain guns for small boat repelling on board the ship. And we had the Marines with their 50 caliber machine guns set up in sandbags on their deck too for that. But we had a contingent of EOD guys, because one of them was an IC-1, was his name, Jones, Bo Jones, I think. He was the same rate as us, but he was in EOD, so he came down to the shop. We talked to him quite a bit. But they would find these mines, and they'd lower this little rubber raft over the side, and these 3 or 4 guys would get in it, and they'd go out to the mine, and they would take a satchel charge, and they would jump in the water, and they'd swim to the mine, they'd tie this satchel charge off, pull a fuse on, it was like a 15-minute fuse. They'd come back to their boat, pull back a ways, and then we'd watch this mine blow up. So we blew up 10 mines there. But in this formation, the Princeton, from what I heard, they saw a mine. Now there's different types of mines. There's floating mines, and then there's subsurface mines, magnetics or displacement mines. And they saw a mine, and a displacement line lifted up behind them, and they went into reverse, and it hit their after steering and blew their after steering up. So they were dead in the water. They couldn't steer the ship. Nobody died, but I know some guys got hurt bad, is what I heard. Right after that, the Tripoli got hit by a floating mine in its starboard side, which blew a hole through it about, I don't know, probably a 12-foot diameter hole. And we had a guy that was waiting to get on the Missouri that was on there temporarily. And he said, I was sleeping, because this was early in the morning. He goes, I was sleeping, and the next thing I knew, because he blew him right out of his rack. He goes, I was 6 feet off the deck, and I hit the deck. Nobody got killed in that. But they had to pull the Princeton out and put it in a floating dry dock, and the Tripoli was, you could see it, it was in port in Bahrain with a hole on the side of it. So they had to get those 2 ships back to, I think San Diego's where they sent them. And then, so that, we stopped. We aborted that, but by that time the Army had already done its whatever left hook maneuver through the desert. It was already in place, so that was where we're done. And then we came back, and I think we did some other gunfire support missions on some islands that had some pockets of resistance in, and then we pretty much didn't do anything. But we spent 66 days out to sea after we launched those first Tomahawks to when we came back to port.